When most people see a serger for the first time, they always ask this question: what does this machine do? And this is always my answer. Have you ever looked on the inside of your clothing at the seams or at the hems and noticed this type of stitching? Well, that's actually done by a serger, which is also known as an overlock machine. It prevents the fabric from fraying and it gives your clothing a more professional finish. As a result, it makes any garment much more durable, because if your fabric was to fray all the way down to the stitch, then that would mean your stitch would come undone and you won't be able to wear that garment of clothing anymore. If you've been following me on Instagram or watching the sewing tutorials here on my YouTube channel, then you know that I use a serger in most of my sewing projects. Some of you may have wondered if it's even necessary to have a serger, and some of you want to get a serger but you just don't know which one to get. But no worries, I'm here to help you. If you're just sewing for yourself and your family, I recommend getting a domestic serger. Really great brands are Brother, Singer, and Juki. You can find links to purchase these in the description. Most domestic sergers have 4 threads at the top here, in comparison to industrial sergers that can have up to 5 threads. If you get a brand new domestic serger, it can last you for a very long time without problems, but an old one may become frustrating over time. If you're sewing for your business and you sew lots of clothes every month, an industrial sewing machine is the best option because it goes much faster than a domestic one. Domestic machines are powered by a foot pedal and industrial sewing machines are powered by a motor, even though you still have to use a foot pedal. This makes them much faster, which means that you can sew more items in a shorter period of time and you can sew heavier materials. The first industrial sewing machine that I ever had was a Singer sewing machine, and that sewing machine was going really great until one day it got wet by the rain. It was at home, it started raining really heavily, it was at the window, and no one was there to close the window, so it got a proper soak and it never worked the same way ever since. After that, I got the Brother serger that I now have. It's really old and it's from England, so I don't know if they make it anymore. But this right here is the model name, just in case you want to check it out. If this video has been helpful for you, give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend that might like it, and subscribe to this channel for more sewing content. Bonus points if you turn those notifications on, so that way you'll never miss another one of my videos again. One of the biggest benefits to getting a serger is that you'll be able to finish the raw edges of your sewing projects, which leads to them looking much neater. This comes in handy if you're going to be selling the garments that you make. Another benefit is that you can sew the seams of garments without your sewing machine. If your serger has the right settings and the needle tension is high enough, it can actually be a substitute for your sewing machine until you have to hem. The same goes for sewing straps, as you can use a serger to sew them without needing a sewing machine. When you do use a sewing machine to sew straps made of stretchy fabric, you have to stretch the fabric while sewing in order to prevent the threads from popping when you stretch the straps out. But when you use a serger to sew the straps instead, you don't have to stretch the fabric because the serger stitches have enough room to expand based on how they're arranged. Your threads will never pop when you sew straps with a serger. This comes in handy when sewing fabrics that stretch. Another benefit is that your serger trims away the excess fabric while you sew, using this tiny knife here. This way, your straps can have less fabric on the inside and your seams can be equal and even if you're sewing another type of garment. All sergers come with a diagram like this that shows you how to thread them, so follow the diagram based on each of the stitch dials and colors and you'll be able to thread it. Please don't mind how dirty my serger is right now. I need to actually get some canned air so I can clean it, or a vacuum. So here's a hack that will save you from having to thread your serger all over again when you want to change your threads. You're going to first cut the threads that are currently on the serger and put the threads that you want to use on the thread stand. Tie the ends of the threads together and cut away the excess. Now all you have to do is to pull the threads through to get them in place. Do this one thread at a time and be very gentle to avoid popping the thread halfway through, because then you'll have to thread that one all over again. Some sergers come with only one needle and some come with 2 needles. I recommend getting the ones that have 2 needles because they can be a substitute for your sewing machine when sewing seams and straps. The flat part of the needle should always be facing the front of the serger, and the curved part of the needle should be facing the back. All sergers thread from front to back. If you're using an industrial serger and you want to change the needles, you'll have to get this tool, and it's called an Allen key. You can change the tension of the threads by turning these knobs. I recommend trying different tensions for each knob and testing them on scrap fabric to see how they look before sewing your actual garment. Industrial sewing machines need machine oil, and you can see it coming up here, but domestic sewing machines don't need oil because they don't have a motor. I can say for sure that a problematic serger can be a pain in the butt, but having a serger overall will definitely change your sewing game. You will feel so much more satisfied with the things that you sew. So start looking for some good sergers near you and get yourself one. You might like this playlist all about sewing machines, so click here and I'll see you there.